Welcome to the business update on the big scope. Today, as you can see, I've got no Aritra. It's just me. He's off trying to get married, to get engaged, or something like that. I don't talk to him too much off lives. But anyway, today we're talking about gambling. So today morning, a law panel that's been set up for a year or so finally came out with a verdict saying that sports gambling in India should be legalized if a little bit regulated. So the whole issue of gambling in India is a little bit strange. The law goes back to 1867, back when the Brits were making the laws and not us, which said that gambling is illegal. But once we got our freedom, got our own constitution in 1950-51, it said that the states could decide whether gambling is illegal or legal. Obviously, India is a federation, so while the center may say we still have a law from 1867, the states get decide. Of this, only 3 states or union territories have decided to allow gambling. You've got Sikkim, you've got Daman and Diu, and obviously you've got Goa, who've got boats full of gamblers. But again, it gets really, really complicated. Because gambling is not just, I'll give you some money, let me play poker. That's what happens in Goa. But you can do other forms of gambling all across the country. So, for example, there's just one law that differentiates what's good gambling and what's bad gambling. So good gambling is anything that requires skill. So you can gamble on something that has skill. And bad gambling is something that you're just betting on chance. So an example of good gambling would be horse racing in India. They say it takes skill to have horse races, right? You've got to have the jockey trained, you've got to have the horse race, you've got to have the horse trained. You have the perfect conditions to win a race. So that's something you can bet on. You can do research to say this horse is good, this jockey is good, X, Y, Z. I'm putting $10 on him. Or most likely $1,000, $10,000. No one bets 10 rupees. Or you've got bad gambling, which would, according to India, mean cards, poker. That's bad gambling. Even though, surprisingly, rummy comes under good gambling. So as you can see, it's a very weird situation. Skilled gambling includes horse racing, which is very easy to fix, and rummy, which, well, you could argue depends on the luck of the cards you get. Whereas bad gambling equals poker, which is an indefinitely harder card game to play than rummy. And sports, all sports, cricket, football, hockey, things that actually require skill, things that you can actually predict with a certain amount of certainty. Sorry. Aritra's not here, I'm just mumbling my way through this. But a sport where you can actually predict something is considered unskilled gambling. So that's what this law panel was trying to decide. Do we allow this gambling of sports to happen? Now let's look at the facts on the ground. Now, the last report on gambling in Goa, this FICCI report from 2013, said that gambling brought in 3 lakh crore in revenue. And this is just the guys in the boats and the 6 land casinos that Goa has. So that's 10 casinos in total. And Goa gets 3 lakh crores 5 years ago. It's shot up since then, obviously. On the other hand, now we're talking about sports, right? So is there an online community for sports gambling? The easiest way to find out is the fact there's a lot of online communities for fantasy leagues. So Dream 11 is one of the famous ones. You may have heard Mahendra Singh Dhoni a couple of months ago during the IPL throwing up this Dream 11 name. Going, yeah, use Dream 11, choose your fantasy 11 for the IPL. Now these fantasy games have become very, very popular. It's from 2006 when there were only 4 firms doing it to 2018 when there are 60 plus firms and 4 crore people playing these fantasy league games. Obviously the desire to predict these games is high. People want to know, okay, my choices are better than your choices. Now according to Dream 11, 90% of their players do it without money. They do it for free. They do it with their friends. They do it against people on the internet. But that 10% is there. So 10% of 3.8 crore customers that they have, which is 38 lakhs. 38 lakh people bet on sports leagues, sports fantasy leagues. So there is a desire. But how does it work out, right? Is it good? Is it bad? Should we allow it? Should we not allow it? Well, if you look around the world, there are different policies in place. In America, sports gambling has been illegal since 1992. But earlier this year, the Supreme Court struck down that law because it said it's a problem with the center telling the states what to do. Like India, America is a federal republic, which means the states have a lot of autonomy. So now it doesn't mean America is going to start legalizing sports gambling, but it does mean that a lot of states, and it's been predicted that up to 30 states will legalize gambling. So places like New Jersey, New York, that holds a lot of boxing fights that UFC is trying to get into. So there is a little bit of sports gambling increasing. On the other hand, you've got England. Ironically, the guys who gave us that 1867 law saying that no gambling allowed, allow a whole host of online sports gambling. I mean, you just need to watch one Premier League match and you'll see about 10 different advertisements for Bet365 and other gambling. And they've got big names, you know. They've got Ray Winston, who's a big actor who goes out and promotes this. It's reached a point where the English are actually going the other direction. While we're talking about should we legalize it, how do we legalize it, the English are talking about should we ban it, how do we ban it. So there's an issue there, right? It's obviously a vice, that's something we all know, and the house always wins. Otherwise there would be no gambling sites, right? You don't make a profit if you're constantly giving money away. So, is this something that we can do properly in India? There are a few pros. One, it's a business, right? So any business that's profitable gives tax to the government. That's always good. Two, if you legalize it, it gets rid of a lot of black markets. So today, I mean, I'm sure you've done this with your friends, right? You go and bet. You bet $50 that Brazil are going to beat Belgium tonight in the World Cup, if you watch this after the day this is airing. But that's a small amount. That's something between friends. That's a beer, it's a Coke, it's a dinner. There are guys at a higher level, people in Delhi, people in Bombay, that bet lakhs on these kind of deals. In fact, South Delhi, Vice just ran a good article on how in South Delhi there is elite poker games where people have pots of up to 1 crore, where winning 1.5 lakhs is something you can do like that, you know, it's not even a hand, it's less than a hand. So there is a lot of illegal gambling going on. If you regulate it, if you legalize it, you can shut down these black markets. That's what the panel was advocating for. Interestingly though, one member of the panel stood up, a guy called Shiv Kumar, and he said, we should not legalize anything, but this country has too many poor people. It has not enough education about these ideas, right? So you can very easily go to a poor person and say, hey, do you want to make 1,000 rupees in the next hour? And it's a very tantalizing idea. People will want to get involved in it. But is that a good idea for society? You know, do we want people who are undereducated about gambling to gamble? So that's one of the cons. So now this is something that the government has to decide on. The Americans are leaning towards more gambling. The Englishmen are leaning towards less gambling. Does India have the proper rules in place to ensure safety? I mean, because some of the suggestions by the panel was that, oh, you can only put X number of bets in a month. You can only gamble if you have a certain amount of money in your bank. You can only Goa has a rule where you can only open a casino if you put up a 5 crore deposit, which is a lot of money. So at this point, does it become an elitist sport? Is it something that we should be looking at and saying, oh, is it fair to say one part of society can do it, but another part of society can't? Or does all this come down to the basic fact of, do we just need to educate people about how to be smarter with their money? Do we need to distribute money in a better way? Do we need to be a better welfare state? So this idea of gambling, when I first looked, at the report, it's a small thing on the side, but when you really delve into it, it's an issue of how we treat this country, how we treat the people in this country. Do we create divides so that certain lobbyists can gamble? Or do we create education so everyone can gamble? Or do we just flat out ban it like we have been doing for the last few years? I don't know. We'll find out soon enough what the verdict is going to be. But either way, there are some significant upsides. And just because the government may come out and say sports gambling is legal and sooner rather than later other gambling will become legal, doesn't mean it's the fall of our society. Just means that people are thinking of another revenue stream. Anyway, this has been the business update on the big scope. I'll see you guys on Monday.